I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story of woe. It's a story of dishonesty and trickery. It's a story of nearlies. It's the story of the Stargate revival. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So in this story, I am going to tell you everything, the entire thing, from SGU getting cancelled right up to what we know today. This is only part one of the series, so keep an eye open for the rest. In 2011, Stargate SGU, much to the annoyance and anger of the fans, got cancelled. Now, the Sci Fi Network knew that this was a controversial decision, and they had actually a fair bit of respect for the Stargate franchise. They actually wrote a letter to Gateworld. Craig Engler, who was the co executive in charge of the Sci Fi Network, wrote an open letter, kind of apologizing to the fans. Now, he said that we had such confidence in Stargate Universe after the success of Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis that we agreed 2 seasons. Now, to me, that actually showed a real confidence in Brad Wright and the rest of the team that they gave them this deal for 2 seasons. Now, that just doesn't happen anymore. If you think about Star Trek, we don't know what is happening beyond what is currently being filmed. They just don't announce anything like this anymore. Series just don't get that confidence anymore. In Craig Engler's explanation of why it was cancelled, he talked about how they put in certain milestones, certain expectations for the series. And he just basically said those expectations were never met. But what expectations is he talking about? Viewing figures. Sadly, the viewing figures for SGU were simply lower than Stargate Atlantis and Stargate SG-1. It never quite captured the imagination of the fans. But why was that? Well, it was a very experimental change in tone and style for the Stargate franchise. They did away with a lot of the humor and the cheekiness from Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis. They completely changed the cinematic style of the show, going for a much darker feel. And some fans loved it. I mean, we talk about SGU on this channel a lot, and the videos we do talking about Stargate SGU always do astonishingly well. They do well because people love the series and they want a continuation. They want an answer to the series. But the people that don't like it, well, they comment on those videos as well. And to be honest, in the UK, we call it a bit of a Marmite TV show. You either love it or hate it. And some people really disliked it. For me, I honestly found it a little boring. I found it quite difficult to watch, but I have rewatched it since. And actually, I appreciated it a lot more the second time around. And I will say as well, 100% it was getting better. It was getting far more exciting by the end of the series, and I actually do wish and really am annoyed that we never got a third series, because I think if it had got a third series, we'd have got at least 5. And that would have been really brilliant because we'd have got all those answers that we never got. So it was cancelled because of the ratings. Not entirely. Stargate Universe was also incredibly expensive. It was actually the most expensive out of the 3 series to produce. Now, partly that was because of the change in style. As I say, cinematically, the show was much bigger, it was much grander. It had more detailed effects, so from that point of view, it was more expensive as well. But also, it had actors in it like Robert Carlyle that were expensive contracts. These guys were on decent money, but their initial contract would have been for 2 seasons. If it had carried on, those contracts would have had to have been reworked and renegotiated, so they would have become even more expensive. And there was also an issue because the Canadian dollar, when Stargate started, was actually far weaker than the US dollar. It was loads cheaper to produce TV series in Canada, and that's why the TV show was produced in Vancouver. But By the end of SGU, the Canadian dollar was a lot stronger. So all of a sudden, it was becoming more expensive to produce the show, just basically because of the exchange rate. It was just becoming way too expensive to produce the show. So it was just inevitable it was going to get cancelled. So in 2011, we saw the end of Stargate. We have seen nothing on our screens since. And even though we have kept up the campaign, and here on this channel, we have shouted as loudly as we can, we want Stargate back, we still have no news about a reboot. But was that always the case? Or did we become very close to a reboot? Well, in 2015 we did, but it was the reboot nobody wanted and nobody asked for. And in fact, I'm really glad it never got made. But in 2015, Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin did announce that a project to do Stargate 2, the sequel, was actually greenlit by MGM. Now, it very quickly and very quietly got ungreenlit and cancelled. But for a short period of time, there was development work being done on a Stargate sequel. Now, this would have been a direct sequel to the 1994 movie starring James Spader and Kurt Russell. And apparently, James Spader and Kurt Russell had been approached and were willing to return to the series. Now, the plan was to make the trilogy of movies that Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin always envisaged, and that was going to ignore what had happened in the television series. Now, according to Amanda Tapping, who did an interview around this time, she talked about what she thought about that movie. And one of the things she said was Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich, they never really disliked the TV show, but it wasn't what they had envisaged for it. So even though they thought the TV show was okay, it was not what they wanted to do with the Stargate franchise. So they saw this as an opportunity to reset it. Now, Roland Emmerich has talked about this since. He has talked about why he thinks the project was cancelled. And basically, he has said the TV audience is more important. And when talking about whether he thinks that project could happen now and whether a movie for Stargate would happen, he said that yes, if a Stargate movie happens, I would be involved because I'm contractually obliged to be. But he doesn't think he would get to make his vision for Stargate anymore because the TV audience is all Amazon cares about. Thank Christ. Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich wanted to erase Stargate SG-1, SG Atlantis, and SG Universe. He wanted to pretend like it had never happened, but he didn't get his chance. And all I can say is, thank you. I wouldn't have minded seeing James Spader and Kurt Russell return, but the time has passed. Stargate is about Richard Dean Anderson's version of Jack O'Neill now. Michael Shanks's Daniel Jackson. Christopher Judge's Teal'c and Amanda Tapping's Samantha Carter. Those are the stars we want to see return. And those are the stars we hope to see return at some point in the future. So in the next video in this series, I'm going to be talking about MGM's plans to reboot the franchise and the pandemic that stopped it. And then everything that happened during the sale of MGM to Amazon. That is where we start to get some little twists and turns to this story. Please, guys, get into the comments. Tell me exactly what you think about everything that's happened up till now. And I'd love to know, how confident are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being none, 10 being it's definitely happening, that Stargate will return. Just out of interest, let us know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out, and you will never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can go to patreon.com/SciTrek, and for a small fee, you can join us there. I put most of our videos on there before YouTube, so you can see them first and without the adverts. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.